Hey, everybody. That's right, man. Welcome back to the episode 84 of the Bowfishing Buzz, brought to you by AMS Bowfishing and
Megamouth Bowfishing as well. Bowfishing Buzz sponsored by N Designs Leather and Embroidery. Efficiency Bowfishing Lights by Outdoor Innovations USA. We are back in the booth for episode 84.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to give a shout out to one of our sponsors there, N Designs. Last minute, we decided to get a bunch of youth T-shirts made up for the Jared Ashmore Kids event there.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
And that was kind of a quick little thing, and they shipped them down there to us, Kentucky down there. We had them for the youth event, so hats off to N Designs for getting us those the shirts and stuff with the AMS logos on them for the youth tournament.
I think you sent me a picture of them. They were pretty sharp looking.
Yep, nice little shirts. They had the big logo on the front, AMS Bowfishing, with a little bit of a flag design behind it and stuff. So hats off to our sponsor there for getting that out. And if you ever need anything, make sure to check them out, man. They can get taken care of.
Yep.
Leather patch hats, boat wraps.
Oh, yeah. All their leather work that they do. I mean, they've got all kinds of stuff. And like you said, that was a quick deadline, and they hit it, and they got it to you, and it was awesome. So, So speaking of that, Matt, today is June 18th, I believe. Tuesday, June 18th.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Last week, you were missing from the shop.
I was gone.
You were down south is where you were. Why don't you just walk us through kind of from the beginning of that trip? What were you down south for?
Sure. Well, I was down there for the Jared Ashmore Youth Tournament that Andy Cardwell and his crew put on.
Yeah, always cool.
And actually, I was down there, and I actually recorded a podcast down there. So that's going to be the second half of our podcast here. We were down there with Lance Brantley and Dennis Redden in Lance's new shop down there, Muddy Flats.
Yep.
Down there, just a couple miles away from Barkley Dam down there. So
perfect location.
And he's busy, man. He was busier than heck. People coming in, buying stuff. Rolls was down there a couple weeks ago. The Jared Ashmore tournament was there last week, and he was busy, man. He was selling stuff like crazy, and it was so cool to see his shop and to get down and to sit down and have a podcast with Dennis and Lance.
Yeah, that's a heck of a podcasting group right there. Those are two heavy hitters in the community.
Absolutely, because as you all know, Lance is a captain of On Track, and they just won the 2024 Worlds down there with some giant bigheads. So we talked a little bit about that stuff. So that's going to be the second half of this podcast here. But I was down for the Jared Ashmore. I love that tournament. I have a blast down there. Unfortunately, I was not able to take out Cody Lovett, who I've been taking out since he was 7 years old.
Yep. Yeah, for the last decade, you've been taking Cody out.
He just hit his birthday, and he was unable to shoot in the tournament there. So he just turned 18.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That honestly, seeing Cody, Matt, makes me feel old.
How the heck do you think I feel?
I know. I remember going down there, and him and Ty were up in the boat. We'd film with them and everything. And just
little tight kids.
Yes.
Little kids.
And now Cody's like 6 foot something.
Yeah.
He's huge, and it's just like, oh, my God, these kids have grown up right. It just makes me feel old.
He's going into apprenticeship for electrical work and stuff like that.
Very
so
cool.
It's so funny because when these kids used to shoot with us below the dams, Ty has moved on now with his bass fishing career.
Oh, yeah.
He's
big into that,
He's huge into that. Actually, they're out on the East Coast right now. They're gone for a whole week out there competing in the bass tournaments out there.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's
and it was so funny because years ago when we get them up on a deck, we used to put on their life jackets, and we would also clip them with a rope in case they fell in. We could get them back really quick in case they fell in.
Oh my god!
Because we were below the dam sometimes and stuff like that there.
Water,
so we would actually clip a rope on them and on their belt buckle back there. So it's weird because Dennis's grandboys were Ty and Cody.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now I'm taking out Dennis's granddaughters.
That's crazy.
Bella Redden and Tori Lovett.
Gotcha. So sisters of Ty and Cody.
Yeah. It's so cool. So we took them out. We set a goal. They're 13 years old.
Okay. Are they big into they like bowfishing?
Yeah, Dennis gets them out there bowfishing. Cool. Tori actually came out with us one night while we were scouting on the Ohio River, and I got to shoot with Ty and Cody again and Dennis.
Oh, nice.
We didn't see any bigheads.
No,
really? Just some silvers here and there. But we set goals for the two gals because you can bring in 5 fish to weigh in for the tournament.
Okay, gotcha.
So our goal was to have them each shoot 5 of their fish, get their 5 fish, and to laugh, to smile, and to stay awake.
Have some fun. Stay awake. That's a very important one.
Once you got in the truck, on the way back to Wayans, you could take a little snoozy woozy.
That's how it should always be, no matter the age. Let I just add that in there.
And they hit their goals. Tori actually shot 6 fish. He shot awesome. 5 buffs and 1 silver. And Bella shot 5 buffs.
Nice.
Yep. Cool. So we missed some fish. We lost a couple fish. But that's bowfishing, and had an absolute blast with those 2 gals. Man, they were shooting so good. You know, some of the shots were kind of hard. You know, the buffs were kind of sipping off the banks on us there, and had a great time. They did great.
Let me ask you this, Matt: how many boats are there at this Jared Ashmore tournament?
There was a lot.
Okay,
I don't know how many boats, but there's over 50.
Over 50 boats.
Gotcha. I would say.
And would you say that the average amount of kids on each of these boats, I mean, is there 2 or 3 kids on all these boats?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's cool. You're talking to 100, 150 kids, if not
150 or more kids there,
That's so cool.
Yep.
The next generation of boat fishing.
And right we set up Bella and Tori and Cody up on the boat there, and they were throwing hats.
Oh, kids, nice.
Cool. Not hats, excuse me, but the shirts that InDesign sent down to us, they were throwing the shirts and stuff to the kids down there.
Cool.
And just had a great time. We had about a 45 to 50-minute drive to our boat landing.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Our plan was, I had been shooting daytime grassies.
Yeah, it's like you were having fun down there.
And I actually found some grassies really close to that boat landing that we put in.
Okay, gotcha.
So our goal was to get there and try to get out and maybe get 2 or 3 grassies before it got dark out. Because, but unfortunately, we got to the boat landing, we got back into that bay, and the sun was already behind the tree line.
The worst time of day.
Yep. And they weren't feeding anymore. Those grassies, like that sun beating down and that warm weather.
Yep.
So we just couldn't see them anymore. They weren't feeding anymore, because when they're feeding, you can see their tail, you know, and that's what our goal was, to have them see their tail.
Yeah.
And shoot at the tail and stuff. So while they're feeding. But we just got there if we would have got there maybe 30 minutes earlier, we might have had a chance at some of them. But the sun was behind the trees already when we got there. So we actually moved out and went to a spot earlier to see if we could get some silvers. And it was Saturday, and the boat traffic was just
really
absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, gotcha.
Pleasure cruisers, boaters, jet skiers. We had a bad wind for the direction that we were trying to. We needed it to be calm for those silvers to come up and start feeding, because we saw them feeding right there at sunset. We could see silvers feeding, and we thought we could get a couple silvers before we went and chased the buffs at nighttime.
Yep.
But the boat traffic was just crazy.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So you guys were trying to get out and shoot some of these fish in the daytime. At what time did all the boats get released from the Jared Ashmore tournament?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. So depending on your drive, you totally had to. There was a little bit of you could get some daytime fish there before it got dark.
Yep. Cool. Absolutely. We had a good over an hour before it got dark when we got to our location.
Yep.
And just nothing panned out for us. The silvers, it was too late for the silvers, and the boat traffic was ridiculous where we had found those silvers. And just didn't pan out for us there.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. So then you guys go through the night, you shoot, and is the cutoff like 1 o'clock? You got to be back by 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock in the morning.
Gotcha.
So we knew we had to be loaded up at midnight at the boat landing.
Yep.
And like I said, we left the boat landing at 12:01 and got down. We actually had 20 minutes to spare by the time we got in there to the weigh-ins and stuff. But that gives us time to take some pictures, because we didn't take any pictures while the gals were shooting. We finally took some pictures back there at the weigh-ins of them holding up some of their buffs and stuff, and the 2 girls together, and did some filming there. And they were happy. They went through the weigh-ins, and I let them pick up their fish. They got 2 barrels, their fish in each barrel, and you let them pick up their fish and put them into tubs. I think Tori weighed in like 60-some pounds, and Bella weighed in 40-some pounds.
Nice. Okay.
But they hit their goals, and they were happy. They were right there, right to the end. They did sleep a little bit on the way back to the weigh-ins, but we'll let them do that.
Sure, absolutely.
We'll let them do that.
Yep, yeah. So was their age bracket, what was they were each 13 years old.
13 to 17.
Oh, that's a tough bracket to be in.
That's a tough one when you're 13.
That is tough when you're at the lower end of that bracket age-wise. That's a tough one.
That's why we set goals for them.
Sure.
Get your 5 fish, and then we'll go from there. If we get bonus bigger fish, that'll be it. But, we can't take them out and try to shoot some bigger fish because they're not drawing enough weight back.
Sure.
Tori's actually shooting the Ringo, and she shoots that darn good, man. She's on with that thing.
Yeah.
She's on with that thing. When we were on the Ohio River that night, the first 2 silvers, boom, boom. Yeah. She smoked them.
Yeah. That's cool. And that's just a little, that Ringo, how cool is it that you can turn it down for Tori to use?
Yeah.
And a week ago before you left, you and I were down shooting 30-pound commons with that same bow.
Yeah.
You know, we're both, you know, big old boys, and we're shooting that same bow. That just the universality of that bow is fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So you guys went to the weigh-in. It sounds like you guys had a great time at that tournament. I remember from the couple of years that I've been down there, Andy always does a great job of making sure that no kid leaves that tournament without some kind of prize.
I think there was more prizes there this year than I've ever seen.
Really? That's so cool.
There's prizes.
That's
awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. It was, you know, he just starts calling names out, and kids just start coming up and getting this and this and this and this.
Sure.
And they're walking back with a armful of prize arrows and bowfishing arrows and pop-up tents and combo kits, and it's just they're walking back with a big old smile on their face at 2:45 in the morning.
Yeah, that's cool. They'll remember that forever. That's cool. Yeah. So, Matt, you went down. I think you left. So the tournament was this past Saturday, 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And you left the Monday before that, and you actually did some filming and some shooting yourself.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit of what kind of bow fishing you experienced while you were down there on the boat?
Sure. Well, we talked about this when I was down there with Dennis.
Oh, okay. All right.
We dig into that a little bit there. We won't spoil too much, but I couldn't find any bigheads. I did go out with Lance one night, and we shot 2 bigheads. Nothing big. I think maybe 40 pounds was the biggest one.
Gotcha.
But I was having a blast shooting daytime grassies.
Oh, that's cool.
They were feeding on flats, and I could see their tails.
Oh, nice.
And big old dirt clouds where they were feeding. And I would slowly get up on top of them and just wait. A lot of times they never would show, and I would spook them, and they would take off.
Sure.
You know, it's just that game that you're playing. It's a stalking game.
Yeah.
And sometimes they show themselves, sometimes they don't.
Right.
But Dennis, I went out one day when I got down there the first day by myself, and then because Dennis had clients for his guiding business.
Sure, yep.
And then the next day on that would have been Wednesday, Dennis and I went out and we filmed each other, and probably got enough for an episode on Carpet TV.
Oh, nice, perfect. Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
2 birds with one stone while you're down there. That's very cool.
But we had a good time, man. When you shoot one of those grasses, it's just an eruption of water.
Yeah,
just they go nuts. And
yep,
that arrow was zipping through the water, and had a good old time with that. And then, like I said, we went down and did some bighead shooting with Lance and a couple of his teammates, Gunner and Noah, and saw 3 bigheads.
Really?
Yep.
See, and that blows my mind. I mean, Lance and those boys, they brought in all these bigheads for the tournament. There were other teams with big heads at Worlds, 2 weeks ago, and you go down there, and it was tough to even get on a fish.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I shot 2. We saw 3, and I shot 2.
Wow.
And one was just a 25-pounder, and the other one was maybe 40 pounds. Had a big old belly on her.
Yeah.
But that's all we saw.
That's nuts.
Yep.
That's crazy. That's crazy. But okay, yeah. So you'll get in a little bit more when you're talking with Dennis and Lance.
Yep.
In the podcast that you guys did this past weekend.
Right.
And also, Matt, coming up this weekend is the Youth World's Bowfishing Tournament in Wagoneer, Oklahoma.
Right.
At Freedom Point on Lake Gibson. The tournament runs from daylight to 2 p.m. No cost to participate. Free lunch, free pop and water. There's 3D targets, boat rides, and a bunch of prizes. And there's more info if you go to the Youth Bowfishing Association on the Facebook page. Randy Woodward and his crew hit a milestone this year, Matt. This is their 20th year hosting that event. How cool is that?
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
Hats off to Randy and his crew for doing this and hosting that. I cannot tell you how many smiles somebody like Randy Woodward has put on a kid's face.
Oh God, yeah. Think of the impact he's had on how many kids' lives.
Yep, absolutely. He called me yesterday and we were talking about the tournament and stuff, and how he's got kids that are coming back that were competing in the tournament that are helping now.
Sure.
And they're taking kids out themselves for kids that were shooting in the past. Actually, I saw one of our youth shooters from years ago, Kenny Wheeler Jr.
Oh, okay.
And Kenny Jr. used to take him all over the place bow fishing, and in the worlds. He's won a couple of worlds championships.
Oh my gosh,
youth championships. He's got some of those. They always came up and competed at the Andy Cardwell's Jared Ashmore tournament, and he was there this weekend. And I saw Kenny, and Kenny's in college now and stuff. And,
oh my gosh,
he's like 6'4" or something like that.
Oh, he's a unit.
Oh
wow.
yeah. You don't mess around. And but now he's there with another young lady that might be on our pro staff next year.
Cool.
Aniston. She came up and talked to me a little bit there, and she loves bow fishing, and
cool.
she's working on getting her own little bow fishing rig all set up just so she can go out and have some fun down in Oklahoma and the rivers and stuff. So it's just so cool to see the progress of these kids. Like I said, it's a little sad, like Cody. He's 18 now.
Yeah.
And we were taking him out when he was 7 years old.
Oh, that's nuts.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Yep.
I'd be curious, Matt, with so these events, these youth events at Jared Ashmore, the Youth Worlds, all that is just fantastic. I would be curious. It's impossible to know, but I'd be curious how many of these kids that go out bowfishing at these events, if it was their first time doing it, and if that event hooked them. If 10 years down the road, they're still out bowfishing, essentially because of that experience that they had at one of these events.
I believe
which is so important for the sport. It's so important for the business aspect of things. It's truly amazing what these events can do. They're just just awesome.
Yep. I know. Just going back to the Jared Ashmore tournament, David Waddell, who is one of Lance Brantley's partners, on track. His daughter shot like a 59-pound bighead or something like that.
Oh, my gosh, really?
Yeah, really nice bighead. I'll have some pictures up there on our YouTube podcast here of that. And so we were kind of hoping that might be the big fish.
Yeah.
Yep. Last boat that comes through. I look up on the deck and I see a big, thick, big old back. Or before that, I saw a couple big grassies, Tommy Woods. And
really?
Shorty's boy, he had a couple nice big grassies and stuff on there. He actually won his age division overall. But I look at that last boat that was coming through Wayne's, and I'm looking up there, and I'm like, boy, that's a big old thick back on that thing. It looked like a big head. So I went up there and looked, and I'm like, yep, that's a big head.
Wow.
Young man lifts that thing up, and I'm like, oh, yeah, it wasn't a nail style.
Okay, yep.
It didn't have a head and then like a nail. This one had...
It was thick throughout.
Thick old belly and stuff on it. Yep. And he put that fish in that barrel alone there and dipped the scales at 67 pounds.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a big old big head.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's very cool.
And it's so fun to watch these kids taking the fish out of the barrel. Some of them don't want to touch the fish.
Sure. Yep.
Some of them are using gaffs and stuff and just tossing them into the barrels for weigh-ins. But it's still fun to watch these boats coming through. They have 2 different weigh-in sites there, and they're weighing their 5 fish.
Sure.
It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. I saw a Facebook video of weigh-ins, I believe, the next day. And it looked like 2 maybe teenagers were helping with the weigh-in process, and they were holding
those
barrels.
Poor guys. Those poor guys.
They were holding a barrel up to the boat, so it'd be easier to load the fish in the barrel. And there was a kid in the boat who had it looked like a small buffalo, and he took the buff and he had it like barely held, and he just kind of whipped it, and it ricocheted off the deck on the boat and just splashed the 2 people that were holding the barrels, and you could see them just like.
Oh, yeah, they're in the splash zone. They're in the slime zone. They're in the blood zone. They're in the scale zone. They're in the gooey zone.
Yes, they are.
They're getting blasted. They may even have bubble gut zone.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yep. But
hey,
that's good stuff.
Before we move on, you've got glasses on again.
Yeah,
You've got your stupid glasses.
I've got the old podcast goggles.
I thought you threw them to the side on the last podcast.
Let me explain. All right. So I bought the Fleet Farm specials per your recommendation after you fell off the boat and lost your vicious vision. You went to Fleet and bought a pair, and I tried them on when we were out on Green Bay, and I was like, wow, even these ones are a lot better than these that I have on.
Yeah.
So I wore those Fleet Farm specials up north this past weekend doing some normal fishing.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I could see everything. It was amazing with those Fleet Farm specials.
Oh, really?
Yes, they were fantastic. So now these podcast goggles, that's all these get used for.
That's all they get used for.
They don't get used for bowfishing, fishing, nothing. They're staying in my office, and these are podcast goggles only. I can't risk something happening to my Fleet Farm specials. I can't do it. So these have been retired.
Them off to the side, and they were done forever, but they're just going to be for podcast.
They've been retired to podcast only.
All right.
Yes.
I got you.
Yes. Yep.
I got you.
Yep. All right, Matt. I think it is time for...
Can you feel the tension in the air right now?
It's time for BAA Records.
All right, moving on, we've got Scott Brandt on his BAA Wisconsin state record, White Sucker, weighing in at 5.60 pounds.
Nice. Nate Carhannon on his BAA Kansas state record, Gizzard Shad, weighing in at 5.2 pounds. Nice shooting, Nate.
That's a big gizzard.
I was just going to say 5 pounds. That's
a big gizzard.
Yeah.
How about Thomas Raleigh on his BAA Maryland state record, Common Carp, tipping the scales at 45.60 pounds.
Awesome. Chris Schweers, congrats on his BAA, another Wisconsin state record silver red horse, weighing in at 4.6 pounds.
Nice job. We got John Malios on his BAA Pennsylvania state record mirror carp, weighing in at 30.60 pounds.
Nice. I'm going to have to take a drink of water and clear my throat before I read this one here. All right, so congrats to Landon Conley with a bunch of BAA records here. First off, we've got the Youth Kentucky Record Channel Catfish at 4.2 pounds, the Youth Kentucky Record Freshwater Drum at 5 pounds, the Youth Kentucky Record Gizzard Shad at 0.2 pounds, the Youth Indiana Record Smallmouth Buffalo at 8.2 pounds, the Youth Indiana Record Quillback Carpsucker at 2.2 pounds, the Youth Illinois Record Smallmouth Buffalo at 15.2 pounds, and the Youth Illinois Record Longnose Gar at 9 pounds.
Wow.
Nice shooting to Landon. Holy, that's 3 different states that he's got records for there.
Yep. He was actually down at the Jared Ashmore Youth Tournament.
He was? Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yep. And talked to him a little bit down there. Kid just loves bowfishing. He's into it big time.
Awesome.
And they were actually on the team that finished 5th or 6th in the Worlds last year, and they were the highest placing team with a youth shooter on their team.
Nice.
Yep.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yep. And I was told that he put most of the fish that they weighed in the boat also for the Worlds.
Oh my gosh, how cool is that?
Yeah.
That kid is hooked for life.
Oh yeah. Yep. That's the one I always talk about, that years ago when we had our AMS Big 30 in Brandenburg, Kentucky.
Yep.
He was there with his dad, and he was just a little baby.
Really?
Yep, he was a little baby. Yep.
That's
now
cool.
He's shooting all these youth records.
Yeah, nice shooting Landon.
Yep. Moving on, we've got Sam James on his BAA Michigan State and world record koi. Weighing in at 24.50 pounds. That's just a really cool looking fish.
Yeah.
White, gold, black.
You guys get a full body mount of that
Absolutely.
one right there. That's crazy.
Absolutely.
Congrats to Jackson Newhouse on his BAA West Virginia State youth record river carpsucker, weighing in at 4.8 pounds.
Bridger Hill on his BAA Idaho State youth record common carp, weighing in at 34.6 pounds.
And lastly here, congrats to Jesse Hurst on his BAA Michigan State record longnose gar, weighing in at 12.1 pounds. Nice shooting to Jesse there.
Congratulations to all the new BAA record holders.
Absolutely. Yep.
Get out there and become a member. So if you shoot a fish, we're going to talk about it here on the Bowfishing Buzz, baby.
Bowfishing, we talk about it.
That's right.
Uh-oh.
Moving on.
I know what this means.
Get ready for Fish That You Wish.
That's right. This week's Fish That You Wish comes to us out of the Lone Star State. Like they always say, everything is bigger in the state of Texas. And this fish is a prime example of that saying. Shot on October 16th, 1999 by David Hansen. This beast of a big mouth buffalo tipped the scales at an incredible 106 pounds even.
Wow. Holy moly.
And that is a fish you wish you shot.
Holy cow. 1999. I love the throwback aspect of these, too.
I love it, too,
They're a little bit older. You
Yeah.
know, that fish, that was 25 years ago.
Oh, 100-pound salt or freshwater fish.
That's insane.
Wow.
106.
Wow.
That is wild. Wow. Yeah, very cool fish you wish segment there. And I tell you what, Matt, I think what we're going to do here, we're going to jump right into the podcast that you filmed with Lance and Dennis. Right after a quick word here from the sponsors of the Bowfishing Buzz. Are you looking to elevate your bowfishing brand with stunning design solutions? Look no further than N Designs. Their team of talented designers is dedicated to bringing your vision to life. Whether it's t-shirts, hats, leather products, eye-catching logos, to captivating boat wraps, they have you covered. Plus, with their commitment to excellence and attention to detail, you can trust that your project is in good hands. Don't settle for ordinary. Choose N Designs for extraordinary results. Visit their website today and let's bring your ideas to life. N Designs, where creativity meets excellence. Efficiency Bowfishing Lights by Outdoor Innovations USA. A color tone adjustable and dimmable light with a unique patented reflector design that puts more light where you need it. Efficiency Bowfishing Lights offer 3 different models: the 65-watt single color economy light, the 65-watt Efficiency V2 tricolor dimmable light for maximum efficiency and versatility, and the 130-watt Efficiency Maximus, designed to be an all-out beast of a bowfishing light. Efficiency, designed and built by bowfishermen for bowfishermen. Check them out at OutdoorInnovationsUSA.com.
Down here in beautiful Kentucky, I love it, Kentucky. Down here with Lance Brantley, new owner here of Muddy Flats LLC, and of course, longtime bowfisher Dennis Redden. You all know Lance, big word, 2024 BAA World's Champion down here just recently, a couple weeks ago. Doing some work down here, some absolute giant bigheads, Lance. You boys didn't mess around, that's for sure.
It was a good night, Matt. It was a good night.
That's awesome. Great weather down here right now. It's beautiful. I know back home there was storming out last night. My wife texted me like at 1 o'clock in the morning and said it's thundering like crazy and all loud, a lot of rain and stuff, so I'm glad I missed that. But big weekend coming up here. We got the Jared Ashmore Youth Tournament down here. Taking kids out.
One of the best tournaments there is, to see them kids out there.
Yeah.
And they all get a prize.
Absolutely. It's so awesome.
It's a real good tournament.
There's like 200 kids that come here that show up, and what impresses me the most is the volunteer boats that show up.
Yeah.
To take these kids out is just unreal. And they just show up in boat groupies.
Yeah.
Boat fishing groupies just show up. And it's so great to see everybody piling in to help out with that. Andy Cardwell's been putting this on for several years. I don't know how many years he's been doing this, but I've been coming down here for a long time. Several years. So to Andy Cardwell and his crew that are hosting this Jared Ashmore Youth Tournament, is awesome. It's a good time. But like you all know, Dennis Redden, my longtime friend down here, we met several years ago when I came down to film for AMS Bowfishing with Cindy and Jeff when we had the Campbell's Challenge down here.
Correct.
You were not shooting in that tournament that night, but the next night you took Cindy and I and Jeff out, and I was filming, and that was the first time we met.
Shot some bigheads.
We shot some bigheads. That was probably 2009 or 10 or something like that, I want to say. Somewhere around there. But just a good time, and you've been bow fishing a long time, Dennis.
Yes. Too long to remember.
You're kind of known as the guy that, the big head chaser and big fish chaser and stuff like that there. But starting out, what was it like down here in Kentucky when you first started, bow fishing? How old were you when you really got into it? And what was it like down here? What kind of fish were you chasing?
Well, I won my first tournament in 1973.
Oh my gosh.
But we didn't have no boats. It was a wading tournament.
No kidding.
And we shooting spawning commons.
Wow.
And I thought I owned the world then, And that was in 73, and that's what we shot. Yeah. And I got my first boat probably in 76, 77. And then that opened up a whole new world.
Yeah.
And then in 99, the Asian carp showed up.
Okay.
And I was kind of obsessed with them. This was a different, because before that, all we shot was buffalo, commons, and gar.
Yep.
And we won most of our tournaments with buffalo.
Okay.
That's what we targeted.
Smallmouth buffs mainly?
Smallmouth buffs.
Okay.
Because here, I know you get big mouths.
Yep.
But here we get big smallmouths.
Right.
So we targeted them. They was real good to us. We won a lot of tournaments with them. But then the bigheads come on the scene, and it just, I was, obsessed with it.
Yeah.
I couldn't get enough.
Yeah.
And nobody else bowfished much at night back then.
Wow.
I know when we first started with my boat, if I seen another boat, I'd go to them because I know them. Because there wasn't but 3 or 4 of us that had boats.
that's really hard to believe, Dennis.
Yeah.
I mean, the way it is now down here, it's just hard to believe that,
Now then, they're everywhere, But that's a good thing, you know. It's helped the economy. It's helped West Kentucky because we're like the hub for Asian carp.
Yes.
You can go any direction and find them, but not in the numbers that you can. Because anybody that shoots fish knows Barkley Dam.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's world known.
Right. Yep.
Well, you've had some good trips at Barkley Dam.
Everybody knows this is one of my most favorite places to come down and bowfish. Just because there's so much you can do down here. You can go below the dams. You can go on the flats on the big lakes. You can go to the rivers.
Yeah.
You can chase fish at nighttime, during the daytime. It's just a mixed bag of everything down here, and it's so cool. And when we first started having our AMS, back then it was the Big 30 tournaments.
Correct.
This is where I wanted to have it. And we had them up in Brandenburg on the Ohio River. I just fell in love with the Bigheads. Mm-hmm. The style of hunting them at nighttime on the river. It's quiet, it's peaceful, no lights.
No bugs.
No bugs, right? Absolutely. Once in a while, you get the occasional barge that comes by. You hear the coyotes off in the distance. The fireflies light up the tree lines out there. It's just really peaceful, and you never know what you're going to see when you hit your spec ops light there, and what you're going to see in front of you. Either some silvers or that big old bucket mouth bighead, you know. It's just a neat area. If you want to go chase buffs, you go chase buffs. If you want to go chase grassies, you know. It's just a variety of fish to shoot down here.
Yeah, because within 1 hour, you've got the Mississippi River, the Ohio River, the Cumberland River, the Tennessee River,
right.
Kentucky Lake, Barkley Lake.
Yep.
All of it right here.
Right.
And a lot of times, I know Lance, we talked about it, we don't realize what we've got.
Right.
Absolutely.
We're used to it, you know.
Yeah.
We're here. Like I said, you want to go shoot buffs tonight? Let's go to the lake.
Yeah.
You don't want to go shoot bigheads? Go to the river.
Right. Now, one thing that I've learned over all these years of bow fishing with you, Dennis, was you do a lot of research and intel on the bigheads. You know, take me back to when you were first starting to chase your bigheads. What were you trying to look at? Moon phases, full moons, no moons, barometric pressure? How far back were you looking into that type of stuff on these biggies?
I checked it all. I kept records for a while, and I know Lance still does. He's kind of took up where I left off.
He's taking that to the next level. And we're going to touch on that in a little bit here. Yeah.
But and I have repeat clients that come every year, and they will look at the calendar and they won't book on a full moon.
Okay.
Because it makes the nighttime a lot harder.
Yeah.
It makes the daytime better, but it makes the nighttime harder. But the barometric pressure, rising water, falling water, humidity, it's all plays a big
If
part.
a bird whistles the wrong way with bigheads, I mean, it's everything.
Yep. And that's one thing, especially down here with the dams and the river systems, is that water is fluctuating all the time. I mean, you guys are always on your apps looking at the water levels.
Well, they opened gates yesterday on Barkley.
Yeah.
And that just throws a wild card in everything.
Right.
So, yeah, you have to stay up on the fish if you're going to consistently shoot fish.
Yep, because we all know what happens when the water is high, it's flooded, and it's out into the fields. Man, bow fishing is great. It's a heaven. But as soon as that water starts sucking back, we all know what happens. It turns to total crap in a heartbeat. And it can, back in, I think it was 2014 or 13, we shot Worlds down here. And man, the fishing was awesome. And we were on the lake and we were shooting buffs, and it was great. All of a sudden at midnight, our fish were just like gone. And I was new to this down here. I didn't know what was going on, really. I'm like, man, where'd our fish go? They're gone.
Denny didn't tell you no different, did he?
No.
He was shooting against me then, so I couldn't give him too much.
But come to find out, they had started pulling water at midnight, and our fish just slid down deeper off the main banks.
Yeah.
And over the years, we've discussed that and talked about it, and you said, yeah, you don't know why those fish all left, but I know why they left.
Well, you can't give all your secrets away.
Right. In fact, we were just talking about that the other night when we were on the lake here, that night, and how the water started dropping at midnight, and the fish just were gone.
And I don't know how they feel it, but it can drop 1/10 and they know it.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's crazy, especially the buffalo.
Yeah.
Now, it don't bother the Asians on the river as bad as it does the lake fish.
Sure. Yep.
But when you go out and you see them gar laying on bottom, it's usually not good.
It's not good, right? Well, we had a good time yesterday, Dennis. You and I went out and we were filming some daytime grassies. And it was actually better the day before. I was out there by myself. They were feeding in a different style of feeding when I was there. And I got some really cool footage with the GoPro. I probably shot maybe 10 grassies. Mm-hmm. But I was taking a lot of footage and slow motion footage of them feeding with their tails out of the water and stuff. And so you and I went back yesterday, Dennis. And man, we had a good old time, didn't we? We were swapping back and forth between the cameras.
Yeah. We done good. That's a different style of bow fishing.
Right.
You know, for the guy that's wanting to shoot 50, 60 fish a day, it ain't for him.
Right.
But if you just like the stalk, and when you hit them, well, you was posting some of the video that it was coming plumb out of the water. Yeah. Pretty cool.
I was recording in slow motion with the big camera, and Dennis hit a grassy. And you can see his arrow disappear into the mud, into the water. And it's like, did he get it? What's going on? All of a sudden, out of the mud comes this grassy, completely out of the water. You can see the arrow through it. It does like a barrel roll in the air, and it splashes down in the water. And we got some really cool footage. I was looking at it yesterday when I got back to the trailer, and we got some good stuff, Dennis. So we'll probably make a whole episode out of that because we got some good stuff.
Yeah, and they was good, solid, 18 to 23, 24 pound grassies.
Yep.
It was good fish.
Mm-hmm. But it was really neat because, like I said, when I was there the day before, they were like feeding completely up and down. So their tails were out of the water. Yesterday, they were feeding more towards the bottom where their tails weren't up out of the air. And you could just slowly see a little twist or tail of them. Mm-hmm. You had to kind of guess which way the body went and then shoot. So it's a little bit different, but it's neat stuff because you don't see a lot of that type of footage in bow fishing.
Right. Because it's hard to get. I mean, we had, if you drop an arrow on the deck, you had to move 100 yards because it cleared the whole spot.
Yes, right. I mean, those fish were gone. I mean, literally, when I say those fish, I'm talking probably like 25 fish in that area were just boom, gone. It was crazy. It's crazy. But we had a good time. We got some cool footage that you're going to be able to see in this video podcast here. But then moving on over here to Lance Brantley. Actually, a lot of talk around, your style of bow fishing, which is kind of crazy because it's still bow fishing, except you're doing a total different style of bow fishing on these Bigheads. You're not having your big lights on. You're not running fish down. You're quiet. You're stealthy. And you've lost a lot of tournaments. Or I don't say lost a lot of tournaments, but you competed in a lot of tournaments before.
I've lost a lot of tournaments, man. I've lost a lot of tournaments. So, it's a true story.
You put in your time. And you've done it. We've talked. You've put in a ton of intel and work and knowledge on these Bigheads.
And it's not even just myself. We're a 4-boat team, and we're all grinding. That's what a lot of people don't understand.
Yep.
I mean, that's a lot of eyes and hours on water.
Right. You got yourself. You got Gunner,
Noah Brewer, Gunner Hagen, Noah Brewer, and David Waddell.
Yep. And they all. I mean, you guys have really changed the way people are looking at tournaments right now with these Bigheads that you guys are coming in with, because some people think it's not fair. You're seeing teams or tournament directors that are putting on limits on Bigheads that you can bring in, which to me is kind of goofy because they're an invasive, species. And I can see, like us, we have a cap on buffs, but buffs are a native species, so we put a cap on buffs back in Wisconsin. But your style of fishing is so unique. And another thing that we talked about the other day, Lance, is when you're out bow fishing, you're quiet. The residents don't even know that you're out there. You're running, when you're moving from point A to B, you're running your outboard motor. You're quiet. And what you're doing is pretty freaking cool. seeing those fish that you guys are coming in with, and
it's a lot like deer hunting, really.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's rewarding when you find them.
Absolutely. I can't imagine what it feels like when you're out scouting and you find those giants like that.
Well, you know a little bit about it, Matt. Matt said he made a comment about how boring it is, and it is, and unless you're on them, that's for sure. But that's when you get that payday, it's all worth it.
Absolutely. So take us back, Lance, to scouting for the Worlds that you guys just finished up here a couple weeks ago. How much time did you and your teammates put into scouting for Worlds?
6 years.
6 years.
Well, I mean, leading up to it, in a way. I mean, but I know Noah and Gunner started the weekend before. David and I, we couldn't start till the following week, but we were all 7 days prior. We were hitting it pretty hard.
Yeah.
And we had so many changes. The water, man, you didn't know when they were going to open the gates. You knew it was due. It was up and down, and it was not the best conditions, but it ended up working out in our favor.
Good. That's good. So what is it like? I mean, what is it like when you have your spots and you're checking your spots? What is it like when you see the size of fish in those spots? I mean, what's going through your mind when you're seeing those size of fish when you're scouting for this tournament and knowing there's a chance that you might get these fish?
Puts a smile on your face first, and then it's worried about who else has found them.
Okay.
Or how many other boats is in the area. And and if you find them, somebody else can too. Mm-hmm. And they did. It was we slipped by that wind. I mean, descaling was right on our tail, and which them guys, they're always out there grinding. Also, they're putting their time in, and we felt good about it, but we also knew like there's always going to be somebody or multiple people. So until you know for sure, when you're heading back to that weigh-in that you actually got it. And I was talking to Dennis on the way. He's like, "Oh, you're looking pretty good. That's not bad." And I'm like, "You know how it is, Denny." But it was nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And people don't understand how much time he puts in, because they has been, I don't know how many nights at 12:30, 1 o'clock, we'll be talking for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And he evaluates everything down to the minute detail. Mm-hmm. And I give him a hard time. Sometimes I'm telling him, you overthink it, Lance. Come on, you're over. But hats off to him. He puts it in because, like I said, I've laid in bed lots of nights, and he'll be out there on the river like, I can't find nothing. They're not here. Why? He wants to know why. And I'm like, man, that's just bow fishing. Sometimes they're not here.
Yep.
And then I get all kind of clients calling me like, I want to go shoot one of them bigheads. And I'm like, you don't understand.
Right.
For every night he shoots them, he's probably got 20 nights scouting in, and I call it boring because,
it is.
One night you're going to shoot them, and when you find them, you save them.
Yeah.
But you can't shoot them. And, I got clients that they drive 4 or 5 hours, and they won't shoot one night, and they expect me to put them on a 60, 70-pound bigheads. And I'm like, you come down here and we go 4 or 5 nights, I could probably do it. But the other nights, you're not going to shoot nothing.
Yeah.
People don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And the time that he puts in, because we fussed about it and argued, you got to have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you show up to one of your holes and there's a boat sitting there. It's not like when y'all are shooting, we'll go around them and going down the bank.
Yeah.
It ain't like that.
Right.
If there's a boat there, that's pretty well over.
Yep.
During the World, we was on Plan D before it all come together.
No kidding.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Wow.
It's because it always something goes astray.
It's always something. You can count on it. And that's what I learned too by when you start finding them, they're not easy to find that upper scale fish anywhere.
Yeah.
So you find that spot or two, and boy, you can't wait to take them into the tournament. Yeah. Well, then you roll out there on tournament night, and you realize, man, Thursday night there wasn't the boat traffic I got tonight. You got bass fishermen or pleasure boaters or campfire. Who knows? I mean, you never know what it's going to be. So you better have a backup plan when you're chasing them. Yep. And that was the hardest thing for me because when you find them, maybe you got one spot. You know, if you bring them in, you're going to win more than likely, especially when this all started. So it's hard not to go to it.
Right, absolutely.
And then you show up and you watch everybody else weigh their fish in, and you might get lucky and take big fish, but that's all you got.
Yeah, yeah.
And that happened a lot.
Well, you guys rolled in with your 10 Bigheads for Worlds, and you said you had a 76-pound average on your 10 Bigheads?
74.
74-pound
I think it was
average.
74, yes, sir.
Good grief. And your biggest was 85?
84, but 84. I like the way you think.
Okay.
And them fish didn't get that way overnight. These are older fish, you know, and
absolutely.
when you take these out, it ain't like when we're shooting commons, you know, there'll be one take its place tomorrow night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not on this size fish.
Right. So take me to when you guys are on the water, Lance, and you shoot one of these and you stick one. I mean, these aren't small fish. How long does it take you guys? I mean, how efficient are you guys as a team on getting that fish to the surface? I'm assuming a couple backup shots in these fish. I mean, how efficient are you guys getting those fish in the boat? Being quiet at the same time with, 70-pound fish, so you're not spooking more fish. I mean, how efficient are you guys? You have a pretty good routine?
Yeah, I mean, and that's something else. I'm blessed with the team. Everybody kind of knows what everyone's thinking. They know what to do and when. And it's like a well-oiled machine. I mean, most of the time, if we're watching that fish mouthing at us, if it's one fish, everyone the light hits, pause, shoot. I mean, it sounds like one shot. So there's multiple times that we'll have 3 to 4 arrows in a fish. So, and that saves you on time.
Absolutely.
You don't have to, the backup. If it's 2 or 3 minutes, every second counts.
Right.
So, if you got 2 or 3 arrows in it, you're pulling them a little harder.
Yep.
But those big fish, you got to give them. Typically, they're going to have about 3 pushes on them. They're going to push. You let them fight out. You come up, they'll fight one more time. Usually 2 to 3 times, they give you a good hard pull, and then they're just kind of dead weight. And you ease them in. We usually pop them in the head, throw them in the tub. And that's what a lot of people ask, well, who shot that fish? Who shot that big one? We don't have a clue.
Really?
It's usually multiple people, or, man, you're just in that tournament mindset where it's just everybody does what they're supposed to, slide the fish in, go back to the deck. I mean, we don't even look at them.
So you bring a 84-pound biggie in the boat for the tournament. There's no high fives or little hooting and hollering or little excitement.
Man, there's been a few moments when we felt like we had time to breathe. That we done that high five, but most of the time it's just straight back to the deck.
Yep. Okay.
When you get beat so many times by one fish, that stays in your head. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to waste a minute.
Yeah. Yep.
Every fish matters.
Every fish.
Tournament.
Yep. Well, you guys brought in an albino also for the tournament. I think Discalon had 2 albinos. When you get a fish like that, is there a little? I mean, are you excited when you get something like that in the boat?
We had some high fives on the albino. We don't see many of those. That was pretty neat.
That's on my bucket list, Lance. Is an albino bighead.
You're due. You and Dennis are due. That's on your both bucket list. It's going to be a bad day if one shows up or just going to get flat missed. I don't know.
Yeah. Probably a miss.
Yeah.
I'll get
Y'all be blocking each other when you get a shot out.
I'll get like buck fever. I'll get bighead fever on that guy. Wow. So you get those fish in the boat, and like we were talking yesterday, Dennis, you got to be quiet. Your arrow hits the boat, or or you step on and something drops on the floor. That spooks fish. I mean, yesterday we saw it where plenty of fish just barreled out of that and turned it to complete mud. For you guys, Lance, when you land a big fish like that, you got to be quiet.
Absolutely.
You got to be quiet. You got to take care of business, and then get back on the deck. How many barrels or tubs do you have in your boat for those size fish? Because I'm assuming you don't want to lay them all on top of each other to kind of squish, fluids out of them, and if they have eggs in them.
Well, on the Worlds, we had 200-gallon tubs in the boat.
Okay.
And honestly, it wasn't enough.
Really?
We couldn't put 5 gallons of water in the thing. I mean,
wow.
We didn't have no water. We lost poundage, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And that was our fault. Some guys were smart enough to bring some extra tubs and stuff, keep their fish on water. And when you're running all week, you forget to remember everything. And that was one thing that we probably should have done, which it worked out, thankfully. But sometimes that little bit of difference, keeping them in water and that pound or two may put you where you need to be.
Yep.
So
yep.
that was kind of an amateur mistake on us.
So I know, like back home by us when we have our big 20, a lot of our commons have a lot of eggs in them. Some of them are spawning; they're oozing eggs, and teams will plug those fish. And what I mean by that is they're taking a tampon and stuffing it in there so they don't ooze and lose that weight, because that's extra weight that you're going to lose. You know, and I know that there's teams that say we should take care of our fish better. You know, there was between second and third was mere ounces this year for the big 20.
Yeah.
And you guys don't plug any of your fish down here at all. I know even back home teams will plug their hole where they shoot a fish in the stomach or something like that. They'll plug that. But when they weigh in, we make sure they have to pull those plugs out, you know.
Yeah.
Do you guys plug any fish down here, Lance?
We mainly do on like the spawning buffalo. We typically don't on bigheads. They don't really seem to, unless you hit that egg sac, typically don't lose them as bad. But you saying that, we had a big buff contest here, and Gunner brought a fish in. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, 68 pounds. But he put it on the scale, and he had it plugged. I forgot, some plastic or something wrapped up, and threw it in there. And when it was on the scale, we took the pictures, got the weight. We got kind of like proof of all the fish. And anyhow, that piece of plastic come out, and I want to say that fish lost 6 pounds.
Wow!
Just by egg, just like that.
Absolutely.
And she had already lost quite a bit before he got her plugged, but it surprised me the amount of weight that just from those eggs.
Yep, absolutely. Dennis, back in 2016 when I shot that, what was it, 87-pound buff smallmouth, I remember looking back at the video, I remember gaffing that fish, lifting it in the boat, and standing there looking, going, oh my gosh, look at this thing. And the eggs were just pouring out of her onto the deck of the boat. And I'm like, you know, you don't, but look at the weight that you lose out of something like that. I mean, that's crucial when it comes to tournaments, when it's,
absolutely,
you know, especially in
counts.
big payout tournaments, the ounces, pounds make a huge difference.
Yeah, you can figure 10% minimum for eggs. You know, if you shot a 70-pound fish, it'll have at least 7 pounds of eggs in it.
Yeah.
Well, and if you don't plug them, they'll all pour out if she's spawning.
Right.
Because people think they spawn for a week.
Yeah.
When them females start laying them eggs, it don't take them that long, because you're talking of a stream big as your thumb coming out of them.
Pouring out like a gallon of milk.
Yep. Exactly.
Yep. So Lance, the night of the tournament, you guys are sitting there, you got some fish in the boat. You're only allowed to weigh in 10 bigheads. When you shot your 10 bigheads, did you continue to shoot more bigheads? Or kept looking for bigger ones?
Well, we had some pretty good silvers found. That was kind of our game plan, is to put silvers and bigheads in the boat. And our silvers had left us. Okay. So we didn't want to waste too much time, because we still wasn't happy on our weight with our bigs. So we kind of went back and forth, you know, shooting silvers as we went along, you know, the night. But as far as anyhow, once the silvers left, we just started calling out bigs. Okay. I mean, we didn't have and it's weird, honestly, but there wasn't a lot of silvers up. It was mainly bigheads. So
no kidding. So it was one of those special nights.
Yes, it was. And we had another spot, but time-wise, we were getting late enough in the night that we kind of done the math and was like, if we can keep calling these fish out, these bigs seem to be growing. And, you know, we had shot some good ones previously, but, you know, it made the most sense at the time just to start calling out bigs and do the best we could on that. So that's what we did, and thankfully it worked out. Yeah. Because D-Scalon had a lot better average on their smaller 10 than us. Okay. We were just lucky to get a few good kickers in there that put us ahead.
Sure. And they weren't even far behind you on the biggest overall fish neither. They had like an 81-pound biggie also.
They had us. We were nervous. You know, because you can't, when these fish are that size, it's hard to, you know, 10, 15 pounds, and, you know, side by side, sometimes you can't even tell. And I'm peeking over there at their boat, and I'm looking at our fish, and I'm like, oh, man, this is going to be a tight race.
Wow. Yeah. That was really cool, because I posted those pictures of you guys holding your fish up and Team Biscayne holding their fish up and stuff, and people were making comments as, you know, those pictures just don't do justice to the size of these fish that they're weighing in down here right now. And I can imagine you don't get to see the girth. You know, you don't get to see that behind their head, that thickness of those fish, how heavy they are and how big they are.
It is. You can't make them look near as big as they are in the picture.
Right.
It's wild. You can take a 30-pound fish and make him look as big as them, but those fish, you have to see them in person to really comprehend it.
Right. Yep. That's so true. So Lance, when I shot the rolls down here in 2016, with your boy Jeremiah and Jeremiah's buddy Stephen Alvey from the East Coast, I believe he was from. We had a phenomenal night that night. One of our best ever for shooting in tournaments. We weighed in 804 pounds of buffs, and in our 20 fish. And that night we knew we had some good fish, so we're like, hey, let's leave early. Let's make sure we can get back off the water early. Let's make sure we can load the boat, get back to weigh-ins without having a flat tire or bearing issues, because we knew we had some good weight, but we wanted to make sure that we were there for weigh-ins. Did you guys stick it out to the last minute, or were you thinking ahead of time, like we were, hey, we need to leave early to make sure we get enough time to get back in case we have an emergency or a breakdown?
We always give ourselves a little time, but it's always we go as long as we feel comfortable. We usually give ourselves 30 minutes or so, in case you run into a little traffic or whatnot. Sure. But we typically always stick it out to the end.
Okay, all right. Now, one thing that I've been seeing on social media here lately is the BAA is going to be accepting bids again for next year's Worlds, where people can put in bids. Hey, I want it in, North Dakota, I want it in Pennsylvania, I want it, they can put in bids. I want them in Wisconsin or Texas or wherever. And I'm seeing a lot of talk on there about, like shotgun starts, one lake. I have my opinions on that. I'm just curious to see what your opinions are on stuff like that versus, multiple lakes, multiple different states, that you can shoot in. Like, for example, ours is a statewide Wisconsin tournament, Wisconsin waters only. What are your, I know years ago they had shotgun starts where everybody was on the same body of water and they all came back to weigh-ins on the same launch and stuff like that there. What are your thoughts on something like that?
I was listening to your podcast, and I think we kind of think the same on it. The amount of boats and trying to keep a good name for bow fishermen, you put that many boats in the same place, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
You're going to have complaints by landowners, and not only that, just there's so many bow fishermen versus one body of water. It almost be a boat race, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yep. And a boat race is exactly right. I competed in a tournament on the Illinois River years ago, and it was a shotgun start on the river. I saw a boat bounce off of a buoy. It sideswiped a buoy, a channel marker. And there was barges coming up and down the river like that there. And I was like, and the waves and stuff from all the teams leaving at one time like that there. It was a little hairy, but it was kind of neat. But I wouldn't want to do that in some of these tournaments where there's 80 to 130 boats in these tournaments, And as from a tournament director for the Big 20, I want people as far away from each other as they can get, because I don't want to have people getting arguments on the water, getting arguments. They were too close to me and putting in complaints and stuff like that. I don't want to deal with that. And I know a lot of other teams, especially your smaller teams.
Correct.
Your smaller teams that have those smaller boats, they can't travel a long distance on the water. You got to give those guys a chance also to enjoy the tournament atmosphere, to not feel pressured, to not feel intimidated, by some of these bigger boats and bigger teams and stuff like that there. So you got to give those guys a little room to do their own stuff and to have fun. But I just think it's not so much as a different style of bow fishing that's going on. It's just bow fishing in general is changing the whole form, I think.
Absolutely.
On these tournaments. Like you and I were talking the other night, your airboats and fan boats, make a little more noise. People know you're around. Where you guys are quiet and stealthy. Nobody knows that you guys are there. A lot less complaints, I'm going to guess, on people that are targeting bigheads versus guys that are running fans and airboats. That's just the way it is, In fact, I remember the first year they had the Bass Pro Tournament, they had to close a whole section off because an airboat was running around up in some guy's field, you know?
Yeah.
And they had to close that whole area off to airboats and stuff like that. They're here that year in 2016 we shot in Worlds. They had to close the whole section off to airboats and fan boats because of complaints that they were getting. So, you know, it's just the style of bow fishing. It's just the way it is right now. And I give you guys a huge hats off for what you're doing, because you've learned so much and you're changing your style. We don't gotta change it for everybody. You can go chase your buffs, you can go chase your grassies, you can keep doing what you're doing, but you know, it's just your style of bow fishing, and there's no need to change it. You know, I don't think there's no need to change it. You were saying that if you could have came in with 20 bigheads, what would have your weights been, Lance?
It'd been pretty healthy.
You think you could have weighed in 1,000 pounds of bigheads if you're big 20?
We had that in our boat. We were culling out 60s before we left.
Oh my gosh,
that's something I've never done before.
Wow.
I mean, it was unbelievable night. But I mean, that was one of our better nights ever, and it couldn't be at a better time for us.
Right.
I mean, it was heaven sent to us. I mean, it was unreal. But I mean, and that's one thing. I mean, you hear all the stink right now. For one, these fish, this is the last couple of years that upper size had just really come in. So they grabbed a lot of attention.
Yeah.
But everywhere you go to compete, to me, to be the best bow fisherman, you have to adapt. Yep. And I mean, I tell you right now, we're fixing to go to Muzzy and scout for it. And if we show up, there's a good chance we're going to get our tail kicked. And we know that. But we're going to play the rules and do our best we can with what we know.
Right.
And that's the thing about when you chase these big tournaments, you have to learn to adapt no matter where you help go. And I mean, I wasn't too big on changing the rules, you know, and especially right now, you know, we've been grinding hard to learn what we know. And, you know, this is our area. This is what we learned. I mean, that's what every good bow fisherman should do if they want to shoot tournaments, is learn how to shoot their fish in their area. I mean, that's typically how it starts.
Right.
And so, I mean, the rule change and all that, I think that's kind of BS in a way, you know, and if people just keep the mindset that I have to learn to adapt to whatever waters we're going and whatever boat's the most suitable, sometimes it's going to be an airboat, sometimes it's going to be a troller. And I think if people get that back in their mind at a kind of level this field, I'd be like, hey, you know, I went to their water and beat them. I mean, that's what makes it a big deal.
Right. Yep, absolutely. And, you know, like we were talking about, the water levels can change so much down here. Do you find a difference in bigheads? Not so much in water levels, but water clarity, how it affects bigheads. You know, you see some nights or some weeks it's nice and clear, some weeks it's dirty. Have you noticed any difference on dirty versus clear water on bigheads?
Yeah, I mean, everything affects bigheads. And a lot of it's, you know, if it's a great night and they're feeding fish, they're going to be at the very top.
Yeah.
So, you know, muddy water or not, you know, those fish are shootable.
Yeah.
Where if it's a cooler night or barometer may be falling and they're lower in that water scale, you're not going to see them. So you don't mess with it.
Right. You know, coming in here to your shop here, Lance, down here at Muddy Flats, coming up down here, I see a lot, you know, right back there we got the Battle in the Bluegrass check back there for $10,000. Over here we got the team on track for the 2023 Bass Pro US Open, first place $30,000. Up there we've got a Muzzy check right up there for $3,700. I think over here behind me there's a Cajun one for $8,000. But before that, Lance, you know, just before that, what was it like when you were shooting in tournaments?
It's been a grind from the beginning.
Yeah.
I just got a little fuel money back.
But just to put into reference here, you just didn't start shooting in tournaments and winning these big checks.
No, absolutely not. I mean, there's been a lot more failed missions than completed. I tell you that. I mean, this is my 6th year, and in the last 2 is when we started getting more towards the top.
Yeah. Yep. Because people know you now. People know Lance Brantley and Team on Track and your whole team. They know you guys now. For the last couple of years, they know you now. But before that, you were still shooting in tournaments.
Oh, absolutely. Every weekend.
Yeah, right. So it's just from you guys' hard work and dedication to the grind of your style of targeting these fish has really changed the talk in boat fishing.
It's been a good talk. It has. I mean, and we're not the only ones. I mean, there's a few other boats bringing these type fish in. We just because we were lucky at the better tournaments, we've got kind of known for it. You know, I mean, like I said, there's OCD, D-scaling as always. I mean, them guys, I mean, they won the Muzzy last year off Buff, you know, but yeah, I mean, and it's funny, I get guys going to the store and they don't even know who I am, but they'll come in and be like, man, did you hear the boy shot a 48-pound average the other night? I was like, yeah, I heard about that. You know, I don't even say nothing.
Yeah, yep.
But, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's cool to be in part of that and seeing the things change, but it won't be long, and there's going to be a new boat out there right now that we don't even know about. I mean, there's guys coming in here. I sold out of flashlights last week. You know, I mean, it's always the same cycle. It's all about who wants it the most.
Right. And it was such a cool feeling to know that your hard work is paying off, and it's so cool. But let's talk about your store here, Lance. You just recently are the new owner of Muddy Flats here. 6 months ago or so? Yeah,
back over winter. I don't know exact time there, but yeah, we purchased it from Jeremy Scott. I was just a customer here at the store, and I liked the location, and of course with bowfishing, I thought it'd be cool to have something like this, and I mentioned it to him, and a few weeks went by, and the opportunity come up to buy the place, and that's what we've done. And you know, it's we've been we kind of done a little remodeling and stocking, and you know, everything's going smooth so far, but we're going to try to continue to grow it and see what we can do.
It's really nice. You did some work on the floor here. You got kind of looking like water on the floor here.
I can't claim the floor. That was like that when we got here.
Oh, that looks pretty cool.
Yeah, but we get a lot of comments about that.
Yeah,
it was already done, but we did the painting and the woodwork and stuff like that.
Very nice.
I can claim that.
You got the burnt wood back here on the background, and you got a bunch of bows over here. You've got arrows, megamouth, and a ton of retrievers and line and jerseys over here and hats. I got one of your new hats on right now, right up here.
Yes, sir.
The old Muddy Flats hat here. But it's such a cool spot because first you come over top of the Kentucky Dam, then you come over top of the Barkley Dam, and then you're like 3 miles down the road from there.
Yes, sir.
And so you got a prime location for that because there's a ton of bank shooters that are down
absolutely.
here.
I mean, just last week I had a bunch of young boys come in and bought arrows, and a few hours later they come running back in there, had slime head to toe, and was restocking again. And didn't have time to talk, boy. I knew the fish were running because they couldn't wait to get back to the water.
Yeah, that's really cool. And when I walked in here today, you got a TV back here, and you were playing. You had bowfishing videos on there, and you got drinks and snacks in here for anybody coming. And I can see where this would be a really neat thing to have people come in and just chit chat and BS a little bit, and talk about bowfishing. It's just a really neat spot. So if you are ever down here in the Kentucky, if you travel down here, make sure to look up Muddy Flats and come down here and stop in and see the store. What are your store hours, Lance, again?
During the week, it is 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday from noon to 8.
Okay.
Closed on Sunday and Monday.
All right. And I think we got your grandson, Dennis. Ty is working down here too, isn't he?
Yeah, Lance put him to work. We'll let him raise him for a little while.
Yes, sir. Tommy's been doing good here.
Yep. And up here we've got a replica of a giant bighead over here. I think Dennis Redden shot that.
I think so, and I think probably Matt Sillinger was along when he was shot.
I think we got that one on camera.
I think so.
Yeah, we got that one on camera.
Yeah.
I think that was like in 2015 or something like that. Me and Timmy Boy and you were out down there below the dams. Mm-hmm. And then over my left shoulder here, we've got a giant buff back here that beat somebody's state record.
I took that away from the guy that I was filming that shot it before.
How you feel about that fish, Matt?
I love it. I love it. The only reason I love it is because it was Dennis. Anybody else would be like, oh, dang it, I got to go back down and beat that record. But that's awesome.
I've been real lucky on the big buffalo.
Yeah.
Because my son Jeremiah, he's got the black buffalo. I think it's 84.
Yeah.
And then you had the 87.
Right.
And then now I got that one. It's
90.
A little over 90,
yep.
91, 90.1. Yep. So I've just been real lucky. But there
put
goes,
in your work. You're on the water, though, to do that.
There goes back again. People call me wanting to book. I want to go shoot the spawn with you, and I'm like, and Lance can tell you, the first year he wanted to go, he wanted to go shoot a big buff. And I said, get ready. I'll be 7 to 10 days every day on the water looking. And last year, me and Lance shot fish 2 days, basically, out of the 10.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. You've got to be there when it happens.
Yep. And also, I'd like to touch on, people think that these giant bigheads are just all of a sudden showing up. Oh, they're here right now. They're just showing up. Years ago, when Brian Hughes used to put on the what was that tournament called?
All Out Carp Out.
All Out Carp Out tournament. Yes, and he always had it down on Gunnersville for several years. That one year, he brought it up here to Tailwaters. It was All Out Carp Out, and what was it? You could weigh in throughout the hours. You could weigh in fish, right?
Yeah, every hour had a winner for it, and then they had the overall each night.
Right.
For the biggest fish.
Yep.
And you kind of had to do a little strategy to see what the hourly prize was going to be when you wanted to weigh your fish in.
Yep.
And goes back, we spent a lot of time looking for them fish. Yeah. Brian put the tournament on, and I was good friends with Brian.
Yep.
And he called me and said, "You can't shoot in it."
Right.
And I'm like, "What do you mean I can't shoot in it?" He said, "You're a licensed guide. You're supposed to be a professional, so you can't shoot in it." And I'm like, "Come on, Brian." And he said, I never will forget, he made the joke. He said, "Oh, just go find the fish and send your boy out there to shoot them, and they'll give you a cut of the check." I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. But anyway, it was kind of funny because the first night of the tournament, we had found these fish. We felt good if they stayed what we was going to do.
Sure.
And I was hanging out up at Barkley Dam with Brian and Andy and Kinsey. There's a bunch of us,
And you were watching all the teams competing down there on the water below the dams.
We was watching them, and Brian gets this call. And I'm standing right beside him, and he said, yeah. And then he said, "I really don't think that's right." He said, because I'm standing here looking at him, because somebody had called and said, "I seen Dennis Redden get in a boat with his son, and they're breaking the rules." And I'm like, "Give me a break."
Isn't that something?
Yeah. But we got lucky when we had them fish found, and they stayed. Back then, they didn't stay good. You'd find them tonight, but we had watched them fish for 4 or 5 nights.
Okay.
We nearly had them named.
Yeah.
And
you sent me a short little video clip when you were out scouting. Oh my gosh, it was absolutely insane.
That was mean, I guess, to send you that. But
can I see that clip, Matt? He still won't tell me about the spot.
Oh, I bet.
That's one spot, because me and Damien and my son Jeremiah, and they ended up shooting just Damien and Jeremiah.
Yep.
And we just told, we're not going to tell nobody about this spot.
Yeah.
And you don't even know where it's at.
No.
And you know where 99% of my spots is, and he knows where all of my spots are.
Yep.
But that's one spot that we just,
Yeah.
And we've checked it again, and every now and then it'll have some fish, but not the quality.
Okay.
They had been there. Nobody had harassed them there.
Right.
It was an out-of-the-way place. You didn't think to look there.
Yep.
And it worked.
Yep. What do those fish weigh?
I think the biggest one was 78 or something.
Yeah.
Back
cool.
then, that was,
It was. I remember looking at those pictures and I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
And they shot enough that we won. We won 28,000 in money, and then we won a whole night of bowl for one of the hourly prizes. We won a full replica mount, But we played it, and they had more to do with that. They was figuring what fish to weigh in at what time.
Yep.
And I know it was a lot of people when they'd pull up, they'd run out there to see what they had.
Absolutely.
So we got to where we was covering them up.
Yeah.
And seeing which fish we wanted to weigh.
Right. Right.
It was just a good tournament,
But that just goes to show you, those fish were here.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, when that tournament was going on, Lance, were you bowfishing at that time yet? Were you?
No, but I've heard this story countless amount of times. I mean, it's still talked about, those fish coming in.
Yeah.
I mean, regularly. I mean, I hear it 2 or 3 times a year, from someone that shot that tournament.
Yep.
Yeah.
So those fish are here.
Yeah.
It's just
they was
putting
here.
your time in to find these fish, and they're here. They've always been here for a long time, you know.
And that's some of them fish is the ones he's shooting now on up in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
They're just getting older.
Yep. So that just goes to show you that Lance and these teams that are bringing in these giant bigheads, they just didn't magically appear at these 80-pound weights and just show up and they're shooting them and bringing them in. They've been here for a long time.
Yeah.
They just haven't found them.
Not the numbers it is now. The numbers, I think, is a little better now than it was in. And the commercial fishermen are keeping the silver numbers down.
Yes.
Because they compete with the silvers for feeding.
That's a good point.
And when the commercial fishermen cut the silvers out, it lets the bigheads get bigger.
Breathe a little bit. Absolutely. That's a really good point. And one thing that I wanted to touch on, you kind of brought it up before about not giving your spots to people and stuff. You know, I'll see teams back in Wisconsin, for 2 years they'll shoot with these two guys, and the next year those two guys are on a different team, and you see that a lot, you know, where teams are shooting with different people every year. One thing that I always said about you years ago, Dennis, was it was always you, your son, and Damien.
That's it.
That was it on your team. That was it.
And then we adopted you for
and that took a long time. It did. It took you guys a long time.
Yeah.
You know, to let me come and shoot with you guys.
And Lance can appreciate this. When you spend night after night after night looking for these spots, and you find it, you don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry knowing where you're at.
Right.
And if I take you tonight, him tonight, somebody else tomorrow night, pretty soon it's a community hole.
Yeah.
And it ain't no count no more.
Right. Yep.
I mean, and, you know, I argue with Lance. We argue a lot in a fun way. But if I was still shooting tournaments, we wouldn't be the friends that we are now. Because I share stuff with him that we didn't, you know, other than you and Stephen Albee, and he roamed with Jeremiah all through college. So, you know, it's just, you got to be secret about your holes. You just got to if you're going to keep them.
Yep. And Lance, I know years back in the previous tournaments, you had a 3-man team. It was you, David Waddell, and Noah Brewer. And then you were kind of tinkering. I know I was down here a couple years back. You were tinkering around the idea of having a 4th person join your team. But even you were like, it's got to be the right person.
Absolutely. And Gunner, you know, I shot with one other team before that. Before I ended up going on my own, that's when I grabbed Noah. Well, Noah and I started accumulating more places, and it's hard for a 2-man team to put those fish in the boat in a timely manner.
Gotcha.
And then the more spots you get, you also need those scout boats.
Yeah.
So we, you know, and I talk a lot over with Dennis with that, and you know, Waddell, I shot with him previously. We flowed good. You know, he was good about keeping his mouth shut and all that good stuff. But anyhow, that's when he come along, and Waddell actually, or David Waddell actually shot with Gunner, and he trusted him. And man, when you're on the water, you see who's out there.
Yeah.
I mean, and we try to stay hid. So a lot of times we're hiding in the bushes watching somebody, and I've even watched this guy before.
Oh yeah, we got some stories about that.
Yeah, that's another good one. But anyhow, I mean, you know, he was working his tail off. The team that he was shooting with was a team I previously shot with. They were getting into more crappie fishing and bass fishing and stuff of that sort, and they were kind of hit and miss on the tournaments. And And I seen him grinding, and I was like, man, you know, I talked about it with Waddell before and whatnot, but we decided to ask him if he wanted to join us, and it wasn't a mistake. He's earned his keep.
That's really cool. Speaking of seeing somebody while they're shooting in a tournament, back in 2016 when I was shooting with my cousin and Kevin Baxter, we were shooting in Worlds that night, and the next day in weigh-ins, we were talking and stuff, and you did not share any spots with us, hardly, you know, not at all down there. I barely shot the lakes down there, but anyways, you told me at weigh-ins, yeah, we watched you guys. We saw you guys. I was like, no, you didn't. You're like, yeah, we did. I says, no, you didn't. I didn't see anybody all night long. He goes, We saw you. We were watching you.
That's a big part. I mean, you got to be discreet.
Yeah.
And yes, we watched y'all that night because I was responsible for getting Kevin hooked up with you.
Yeah.
And I caught flack. Oh, why did I catch flack? They're like, now he's here close to us because of you. And what can I say?
Yeah. Because that year we took second in the Worlds down here.
And we took fifth.
And you guys took fifth. Yeah.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was, I heard that from Damien and Jeremiah.
That was funny. That was funny.
But yeah, and you learn not to answer your cell phone when you're scouting too. Because this one here beside me and Jim Ed and a couple more, they wouldn't know sure if it was me, but they would call me.
Oh my!
And then when the phone would light up, they'd know.
Well,
my gosh!
This night I happened to
funny.
be close enough. I couldn't call him. I couldn't talk, so I just threw him a text. Fish up. Ding.
That's funny.
First run in I had with him, we were scouting for a tournament. I'm by myself because we had 3 boats going.
Yeah.
And I see this boat, and it's blacked out, but I know where it was, and I'm like, what that sucker doing, So I know where he was, and I'm like, I'm going to find out. I crank up, turn my lights on, and head right towards him. I'm like, I'm going to make him show his, He let me get pretty close, and boy, directly he cranked up, and here he went, and I'm like, I don't know who that was, and I found out later it was Lance. He was sitting there watching me.
That's good stuff right there.
He checked about 4 good spots before that too, before I even deemed him.
Wow.
But we didn't used to think much about that, but anymore we turn our cell phones. We don't want to answer them.
That's funny.
Because it lights your face up.
Sure.
It's
That's funny stuff right there. That's funny. See, because back home, back in Wisconsin, we're all running lights and your
don't matter.
generators for your lights or whatever, and you can see everybody. We're here when you're chasing biggies, you're in the dark, and you're trying to. You can't, because they're light sensitive. You'll never see a big head like that if you're running your big lights and stuff. So that's funny stuff right there. Call each other to see who's on that boat.
We've had, and Jim Ed was bad about that too, because he'd call me, and you hate not to answer because you think they might need something.
Yeah.
But when you answer and you hear them laughing, you're like, son of a buck, they got me again.
That's good stuff. I like that. Well, so yesterday, Dennis, you and I were out chasing those daytime grassies. You've got some work to do now back home. You got some work to do at your dad's place and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so tonight, Lance, we're going to head out and go see if I can get one of my bucket list fish, that albino bighead.
Yes, sir.
But we're going to go out tonight. Is anybody else coming along with us?
Yep, I think Gunner's going to join us.
Gunner is, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So we're going to go out tonight. So hopefully, we'll get a chance at shooting some big heads and seeing if the fish are up good like that. But I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait to get on the water tonight with you, because last year when you and I went down, and this can happen in a tournament very easily. I can see it happening. You and I went down last year, and we didn't shoot a fish until like 4 o'clock in the morning, Lance.
It was a long night.
Yeah.
But yep. I kind of want to make you earn it too. You got to appreciate them.
That's true.
You can't make it look easy.
That's right. So I'm looking forward to getting out, Lance, with you, and I appreciate you taking me and taking me out and showing me some of your spots that I know are probably tournament spots. So I appreciate.
He's going to blindfold you before you're just going to take the blindfold off long enough to shoot the fish.
Oh man!
But I'm looking forward to tonight. Hopefully we get a chance at a nice big old bighead, because to me they're just such a cool looking fish. Because when you're generally normal bow fishing with your lights on, you start seeing fish as they start appearing in your lights of your boat. Where here, when you swipe that water with your Spec Ops light, all of a sudden, it's there. It's instant. There he is. Now, you got to shoot in a heartbeat. Otherwise, that fish is going to be sinking.
Yep.
So you really, you can spend, like I said, 4 or 5 hours on the boat before you take one shot. And when that fish gives you that one chance on that one swipe of the lights, you better be ready. And you need to be focused after being bored out of your mind for 4 or 5 hours.
It was a good example. Last night we was out scouting for the kids tournament.
Yep.
And I had my granddaughter. She had been swimming all day, and we'd see the fish in the moonlight rippling.
Yep.
But otherwise, she is over just the time the light come on and she got her bow drawn, it was gone.
You're sinking so fast.
So you've got to stay focused.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times, it's hard to do that for 6-8 hours when you're not shooting nothing.
Absolutely.
Because you noticed last night when she wasn't shooting nothing, she'd get bored.
Yeah, what'd she say? She did pumpkin.
Yeah.
Pumpkin means it's time to go to bed, I guess.
Yeah, it's time to take her home. But and people don't understand that. You know, when you're running big lights, you're seeing stuff.
Right.
And all. And, and this here, it's just a completely different way of bow fishing.
You get a lot of time to think.
Yeah, that and you run out of stuff to talk about.
And you talk quiet. You don't. You know,
you're really quiet.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, that's really cool. Well, Dennis, you also have a bow fishing guide service down here on the lakes. You're well known. You've been doing it for several years. Redden Outfitters. And you're staying very busy with that. I think I heard you say yesterday that you were booked from now through July. You have openings in August yet.
Got a few, but not many.
Right.
It's turned in. They always told me when you turn your hobby into your job, it's not your hobby no more. And it's nearly to there. I mean, you know, I know the next 2 weeks I'm 5 nights a week.
Wow.
And that gets old on an old man.
Oh, yeah, I hear you. So you're staying busy. And Lance, you've got a bunch of stuff with your shop here. You've got a couple other stuff. You got...
It's a deer track in the wintertime, and we do the power washing, residential and industrial clean. Residential and industrial cleaning.
Okay.
Here around pretty well the Tri-County area.
Gotcha. So you're staying busy with your hands on deck and a lot of stuff. And I know in the fall, you're extremely busy. I mean, you were telling me you don't want to do this if you like to bow hunt.
No, I haven't. I haven't killed a buck in I think 3 years now.
Really?
Something like that.
Wow.
Yep.
So you're staying busy with that. That's a good thing.
And I can understand it. I don't never get to shoot. Yesterday was really nice for me because I actually got to shoot. Because usually I'm just pointing and watching people shoot or miss.
Right.
You know.
Right. Well, that's really cool. Well, folks, I think that's going to wrap up our episode here, 84 of the Bowfishing Buzz, brought to you by AMS Bowfishing and Megamouth Bowfishing as well, sponsored by N Designs and Efficiency Bowfishing Lights. Hope you enjoyed us down here talking with the 2024 BAA World Champion Lance Brantley, Dennis Redden, Redden Outfitters. Love it down here in Kentucky. Looking forward to Saturday night's Jared Ashmore Youth Tournament. And thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to talk with us out here on the Bowfishing Buzz. I had a great time chatting with you about the Bigheads and your history dating back to the Bigheads.
Yeah.
And thank you guys very much. Muddy Flats out here.
Yes, sir.
Stop in and buy some gear, right, Lance?
Come on in.
You got everything down here, don't you?
We're going to try to take care of you if we can.
Dennis, how can you get a hold of you if you want to get a bowfishing trip set up with you?
I've got a website, reddenoutfitters.com. Get my number, text me or email me. I may be on the water, so it may be a day or two, but I'll get back to
him. Okay. All right, so from all of us here at AMS Bowfishing and Megamouth Bowfishing, we wish you the best of luck. And remember, aim low, think big. Thanks for listening, guys.